Hello, and on the gaming table today we're taking a look at a strength and honor battle, the Battle of Chaeronea in 86 BCE. So the Battle of Chaeronea, 86 BC, not to be confused with the one about 250 years earlier that featured the Macedonians and the Greeks. This one's in the First Mithridatic War. It's between the Romans under Sulla and the Pontics under Archelaus. So here's the table we laid out. This was taking place at the Hong Kong Society of Wargamers club meeting that took place September 14. You can see here I've laid it out, just put a little bit of terrain on the fringes just to give it a little bit of character. And the hills in the back there, the modular ones that I made recently. So just kind of set up, ready to go. Quite a big table here. This is 28 grids left to right and 24, I think, the depth of the table here. So it's actually quite a bit bigger than was needed. So setting up the command boards to start with, in the top left, Sulla's looking pretty good with lots of command points there. The Pontics in the bottom right there, not so many. Their auguries didn't go so well. Here's how things got set up, ready to go. So you can see quite a long line of Pontics there, getting ready to go, and the Romans on the other side. A little bit interesting how they set up on the Roman right flank, the left of the picture. They've got a unit of cavalry in front of a unit of thureophoroi. Not sure how they're planning to use that, but we'll see. There's an empty base of skirmishers in the middle of the table there. That'll disappear in a second. So here's just another view of the battle lines, getting ready to go, ready to take the first turn, and away we go. Now, part of the reason I'd set up the table a long way apart like this, like the armies started basically 10 grids separate from each other, is the two guys playing, Kim and Elliott. One had the rules but had not really played. The other hadn't played but had watched a couple of YouTube videos. So I decided to set the armies up a long way apart, very separate deployment zones, to give them a chance to get used to the movement rules and to do a little bit of maneuvering on this rather large table here. So that kind of added about 20 minutes to the game, made it maybe 2.5 hours instead of 2, but it did give them a good chance to practice kind of, doing lots of movement rolls, getting maneuvers in, starting to make some decisions. So I think that giving them that extra space was kind of a good training run to let them just get used to the rules. They're both experienced war gamers, but obviously new set of rules, just figuring things out as they go. So here the Romans are watching as the Pontics move forward. Both the Pontic wings are moving up and the phalanx are just kind of holding in line there. The Romans returned with some cavalry moving up, but then they promptly failed the remaining movement orders, so that was all they managed to do. And then the Pontics moved a little bit more forward on the left here. They were looking at figuring out how to get their scythed chariots there, second from the bottom of the picture, into the fight. Just another view on them. The Romans starting to move forward. They managed to bring some things forward. The one legion that's lagging behind right at the top of the picture there, that's a raw legion. You didn't want to get that too committed early on. Here the Pontics moving up a little bit more. So the line breaking up slightly here, not quite so organized, but you can see how things are developing. The Romans in return trying to do a little bit of shuffling here at the bottom, get the thureophoroi round and kind of oblique move them around the corner. And then here you can see also at the right of the picture, the top right, the Pontics are trying to maneuver some of their units around to the flank of the Roman army. Just another view of that as things get closer together. Here again, a little bit more movement, things moving forward, but again, some failed moves leading the line to break up a little bit. So again, being a little bit forgiving by having things so far apart. It's just understanding that things can go wrong, your battle line can break up. So I think it was a good kind of training move to let them have this experience of quite a bit of movement before they got stuck in. Okay, so here's how things were just before things started to go into combat. You can see the Pontic right is starting to envelop the Roman left at the top of the picture there, but down the bottom here, some action's about to take place. So here the Roman cavalry charged into one of the units of Pontic cavalry. They promptly failed their discipline test with a double 1, re-rolled using a command point, rolled a double 1 again, and routed off the field. So that was an immediate disaster and a setback for the forces of Pontus, not an auspicious start to the battle. And so here it looks like maybe the Pontic left is in a little bit of trouble here. The troops getting a little bit closer together. You can see right at the top right of the picture there, the Pontic cavalry has turned and is about to start going into the Roman left flank. Here everybody's considering their next moves. You can see the cavalry there at the top of the picture, kind of top left, facing down the Roman line, moving in and getting closer. Now here it was interesting, the legion, the imitation legionaries here, as the Roman cavalry turned, they managed to get a move, not a charge, just a move, but they managed to get 3 grids forward and basically lock down those cavalry so that they couldn't get up to any mischief. That was quite good. Here you can see the archers there with the one behind them, unfortunately didn't get their move off to be able to get closer and engage. But here things kind of not looking too bad for the forces of Pontus as they're facing off here against the Romans kind of 4-1. So here you can see that kind of action at the top there. The centers are still quite some distance apart here. Things closing up a little bit here. Kim deciding what he should do with those legions there, the imitation legion where he's pointing. A little bit of combat about to ensue. And so here the cavalry, the Pontic cavalry, charged into the Roman cavalry, pushed them back a bit, started to pick up a couple of setback cards and things like that. Skirmishers turned to try and get into the action. They're a little bit too far away where they are at the moment. Over on the Pontic left, the Scythe chariots here trying to face off against the Roman right. Just an overhead shot of how things are going. So that Pontic cavalry starting to make a little bit of a mess in the Roman flank, supported by those imitation legions. Now down here at the bottom of the picture, there's a strange absence of the lack of scythe chariots for Pontus. They got charged by the cavalry and they also routed. Scythe chariots being pushed back automatically rout and leave the field. Another setback card for Pontus. That's now completely exposed the Pontic left flank. So both left flanks here under a lot of pressure. The Roman veteran legion under the general here, under Sulla, turned to face the threat. They're not too worried about that slave phalanx there. They figure they can't get into combat here. And yeah, they're taking a bit of a risk, but they're seeing what they can do. So again, the look down the line as both the flanks start to turn in. Now, one of the legions on the left of the picture here charged in against the Thureophoroi, managed to drive them back and disorder them with the red marker there. So now the flanks of the phalanx, excuse me, are now getting exposed here. Not what the Pontics want. At the top of the picture there, though, the horsemen, the Roman horse, have been driven back even more. The Roman legions are pushing forward. They're trying to get into combat with the Pontic center before those cavalry can break through the Roman cavalry at the top of the picture. And here's how that cavalry's charging through, pushing the Roman cavalry back, getting in behind the Roman legions here. Not sure how they feel about that one. The centers here closing a little bit more. And now here was one of the pivotal moments of the battle. The slave phalanx, the one marked with S, and just a regular phalanx here, they both charged in to Sulla's legionary unit, the legion, after Sulla's legion had been driven back into this kind of line astern formation here. The archers had shot at the veteran legion, driven them back kind of towards the bottom left of this picture, put them line astern with the raw legion behind them there, and then the phalanx charged in from the front. And the legions couldn't get pushed back because right behind them is the Pontic cavalry. So we decided, not quite sure how this one should work. I actually asked about it in the rules forum, but we ended up saying both of these were disordered. And so that was picking up a lot of setback cards for the Romans. You can see a lot of those setback cards here. At this stage, Kim, the Pontic player, decided to try and call Homunculus S to see if he could fatigue the Roman army. However, that got cancelled out by a strategy point. Over here, the phalanx now in trouble as they get charged in the flank. They're automatically disordered and they get crunched. And so they get destroyed and routed as well. So now both flanks really breaking down and there's kind of everything trying to turn in. The center is starting to do a lot of damage to each other. Who's going to win the race to zero, as it were? Here, Sulla's legion and the raw legion behind managed to recover from their disorder, hoping to hold things together. The Roman cavalry and the Pontic cavalry still fighting behind them, and the Roman right flank, as it were, has turned in to try and get into the phalanx here. At this stage, the forces of Pontus were sitting on a lot of setback cards, and 3 disaster cards, I think, at this stage. And so what they needed to do was basically try and cause as much damage to the Romans as they could before the Romans called Homunculus Est on them. The Romans had done it once, which had been stopped with a strategy point. So basically the forces of Pontus knew we're screwed unless we can do enough damage to the Romans and call Homunculus Est first. And so that's what they tried to do. So once again, the phalanxes here managed to push back the legions, smash them up enough, disorder them enough to basically, break them again because of that Pontic cavalry that's right behind them again. And actually, in this result, both of those forces routed. So what happened is the phalanx on the left disordered them, then the phalanx on the right won combat again, and second disorder result, you're routed, you're pushed off the field. And so that's what happened. Sulla survived, you can see him standing there, but 2 of his legions are gone. And in the Homunculus Est call that followed there, the Romans exceeded their break point by 3 points, or 2 or 3 points, but it took that last card of the 3 at the bottom for that to happen. So a pretty close run game. It turned out the Pontic forces, I think, were just a fraction over their break as well. So if the Romans had managed to call first, then it could have been Rome winning the day. Here, though, forces of Pontus win the day, the Romans probably getting pushed out of Greece. So I hope you found that one a little bit interesting. Quite an interesting battle, putting those armies a long way apart to start with, giving the players some time to maneuver, and you can see how devastating things get into the flanks if your flanks get turned. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again real soon.